Alright, welcome back to Matt's Math and More. Today's going to be a review session. This is reviewing for the unit test that we're going to have this week on Unit 5. What it is dividing, but it's dividing a whole number by a whole number, like 36 divided by 10, 36 divided by 100, 36 divided by 1000, and how that becomes a decimal. And then a whole number by a decimal, so 24 divided by 1/10. 1/100th, 1/1000th. A lot of people have been getting scared about this. Like, which way do I move the decimal point? Sometimes it's going to the left. Sometimes it's going to the right. I don't know what to do. Like, don't be scared. It's fine. You're going to be okay. It's not like you're riding on the scariest roller coaster in the world. This is going to be okay. Okay, so it gets a little confusing to understand. So I had the kids highlight the first problem in number 5 and the first problem in number 7. And the reason is, if you take a look at these, like this is a whole number, 36, divided by another whole number, 10 to the first power is just plain old 10. So it's 36 divided by 10. That's a whole number divided by a whole number. And when you do that, it's actually, your quotient's going to get smaller. If you have 36 candy bars and you're sharing it with 10 people, everyone's going to get 3.6 candy bars. That's not too bad. This one gets a little more confusing though. This is a whole number divided by a decimal. And so what happens here is your quotient's actually going to look larger. You have 24 candy bars and you're cutting it up. You don't have people to share it with. You just have one group that's a tenth, meaning you got to cut this up into tenths. So you're actually going to have 240 pieces. Now, they're going to be little tiny pieces, but there's going to be 240 pieces. So in one instance, you're moving the decimal point left, which makes your quotient smaller. And in another instance, you're moving your decimal point right, which makes your quotient larger. I know it can be kind of confusing. I'm going to try and demonstrate it to you with that piece of celery I cut up earlier. I'm going to give it my best shot. I don't know. It might be confusing. It might not. But I'll give it a shot. If you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, just remember your arrows this way when you're doing decimals or whole numbers and how they affect your quotient. Okay, just to make it a little easier, instead of starting with these big numbers 36 and 24, I'm just going to teach it in an easier format with just like the number 3. 3 divided by 10 to the first, 3 divided by 10 to the second, 3 divided by 10 to the third power, and then we'll check that out. And then we'll also take a look at 3, but we'll do 3 divided by 1/10, 3 divided by 1/100th, so copy that one, and 3 divided by 1/1000th. And we'll take a look at the differences between the two of these and kind of how they relate to each other. Ooh, roller coasters. Okay, this is take 2. I just made this whole recording and I forgot to turn on the microphone, so a little frustrating. We'll start again. So instead of using the harder problems that I showed you with the blue highlighter, I'm just going to narrow it down to using the whole number 3. We were doing 56 and 24. Those are 36 and 24, too large. I'm going to do 3. This represents a whole number divided by a whole number. This would be 10 to the first power is 10, 10 to the second power is 100, 10 to the third power is 300. And what we did in blue highlighter on the other sheet was said the quotient's going to end up being smaller by 1 decimal place. So this will be 3/10. I'm going to show you why in a second with that piece of celery we had in the beginning. This one's going to get smaller by 2 places, 300ths. I'll show you why in a second, and this is going to get smaller by 3 places. We're going to talk about that. Now, that's a whole divided by a whole. Now, here's a whole divided by a decimal. That's going to shift this way. So 3 divided by 1/10. Decimal always starts there in a whole number. That's going to shift to 30. I'm going to show you why in a minute. This is going to shift 2 places to 300, and this will shift 3 places to 3,000. Now let's look at y using that piece of celery. This is going to be one of the longer ones we've had this year. Let's see, here's that celery I cut up earlier. 3 even pieces, pretty even. Pretend they're exactly the same. Alright, so in the first one, a whole number divided by a whole number. 3 divided by 10. Whoa, wow. Okay, what that's saying is you have maybe 10 people to feed, and you have 3 pieces of celery. So here's your 10 mouths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you got these 3 pieces of celery. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that celery up into 10 pieces, because there's not enough to give everybody a whole piece of celery. So I'll cut this guy up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cuts makes 10 pieces. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I cut this one up. Ouch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I cut this one up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and oh, that's a bad one, 9. Pretend they're exactly the same. Alright, so now, if you notice the answer to this the answer to this one, 3 divided by 10 was 3/10. Here's why. Everybody gets, let's see, 1, 1, 1, he gets 1, she gets 1, she gets 1, he gets 1, she gets 1, she gets 1, he gets 1, she gets 1. I'm just going to keep dividing up all those pieces of celery right there until I get everybody has the exact same amount. Let's see here. That guy gets 1, that guy gets 1, that guy gets 1, that guy gets 1, she gets 1, she gets 1, she gets 1, he gets 1, he gets 1, he gets 1. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3, oh my gosh, 4. This is going to be like the longest video ever. 5, 6, there's another 7, 8, 9, 10. If you notice what happened in the end, everybody got 3/10. Each piece was 1/10 of a stick, and everybody got 3/10. So that's why when you divide a whole number by a whole number, you got a smaller number, 3/10. Now our last part. How come when you divide a whole number by a decimal it gets larger? Here's why. Here is the whole number divided by a whole number divided by 10. So there's those pieces. Same celery. I cut all 3 pieces up by 10. But instead of feeding 10 people, I have 1/10, which means I don't even have a whole. That would be 1. So 1/10 is just one group. So I just have to have one group. It's less than a group even, but I can put them all in one big pile. So all of those together, that whole pile, when I cut up, I cut up my 3 sticks in the beginning. Remember, I took these and I cut one up into 10 pieces and another into 10 and another into 10 because, well, this said tenths right here, tenths. So I put all the tenths together right here. There's 30 of them in there. So that's 30 pieces of them are in there. That's why the answer got larger. See, when you divided a whole number by a decimal, it became 30 pieces. Now, it doesn't mean all 30 pieces are this size. It means I still have the same amount of celery. There was 3 pieces to start with. Now there's 30 pieces, but they're 30 little tiny pieces. See that? So, in one way, you divide it up into whole numbers, so it became 3/10, 3/10, 3/10, 3/10. The other way, you divided it but stuck it all into one pile. So the pile is whole number divided by a decimal, and the splitting up is whole number divided by a whole number.